Hi everybody! In today's video, we will be having a quick study of King's Gambit Falkbeer counter Gambit variation, the beauty and the refutation of the line. White plays e4, black plays e5, f4, the King's Gambit, and d5, the Falkbeer counter Gambit. Then we have knight f3, black captures on e4, knight takes e5, bishop d6 to neutralize it immediately. Then white brings the bishop out towards the f7. Then we have bishop takes knight, f takes e5, then queen d4, double attack. Then white simply develop his queen to support it. Then queen takes e5. So we have a clear pawn up advantage for the black side. And to take advantage to the white side's development, white plays another sacrifice d4. Then let's assume queen captures again the pawn. Then we have knight c3, develop to attack the e4, knight f6 to defend it. Then another bishop comes out, bishop e3, and queen d8 was played by Scallop way back 1864. Nowadays, in our huge engine computers, queen e5 was better. Okay, but let us go back with Scallop's queen d8. Then Anderson played castles. Black played h6 here. Maybe black was quite annoyed with the coming bishop g5. That's why he prevented it with h6. But he forgot his poor king position. That's why Anderson took advantage with bishop c5 to prevent the black's king safety or castles. And Scallop played knight bd7 to kicks out the bishop, hoping for white to play back with bishop a3. Then black will follow with c5 to block the diagonal, then black and castles. But unexpectedly, Anderson prepared this position very well. After white's last move, black resigns. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think and analyze. After that, I will show you that brilliancy. Start. Thank you so much to your effort. Queen takes e4, black resigns the game. Why? If knight takes queen, sacrifice, then we have bishop takes f7, matches, mate. What a beautiful checkmate. So there's no other way for black to survive the losing position. Okay, so let us study the refutation of this line. Again, white plays e4, black plays e5, f4, King's Gambit, Falkbeer, knight f3, but this time do not capture the pawn on e4. You should capture the pawn on f4. That is much better line, okay? So white will capture the pawn on d5, then you should develop your knight first to f6 to capture the pawn on d5. Okay? Do not capture it immediately because you will simply give white a tempo advantage, knight c3 with attack. So tempo is very important in the opening stage. So you should play knight f6 to take the pawn on d5. Then let us pick up the most ambitious move, c4, to protect the pawn on d5 first before white plays d4 to capture or to win the pawn on f4. Then c4, because if white plays d4, there's no problem for black at all. Followed with bishop e7, then simply castles. Then later on, it could be give a slight advantage for black. So that's the problem for white. So let us examine the c4. Then you should play immediately the c6 to destroy the d5. Okay, let's assume d takes c6, knight takes c6, and white should immediately play the d4. Because if white will play bishop e2 for castles, and black would bring the bishop to c5 to prevent it. At the same time, black prevents the coming d4. Okay? Disadvantage for white. That's why white should play d4 here. So bishop b4 check, knight c3, and another bishop comes out to pressure the d4. Now, let's assume if white will play d5 here, and this is the one of the greatest refutation of this line. Castles. To sacrifice the knight, then we have rook e8 check, bishop e2, and queen b6. Good move. Of course, to prevent the white's coming castle, king safety. Now, let's assume the craving of the pawn C takes B7, then we have Rook A D8 to attack the queen, and Queen C2, and we have a heavyweight move, Knight E4, with the threat of dangerous Queen F2, matchas, mate, and White has to move this rook to F1 to protect the F2 square. Then we have another strong move, Bishop F5, threatening Knight takes C3 to have the discovered attack, and also threatening mate on Bishop E2. Okay, so let's assume that White will play Queen B3 to move out from the dangerous diagonal. Then we have Knight C5, traps the queen. There's no other way to save the white queen. And then at the same time, look at the miserable king position at the center. Cry, cry. Okay, so this is our quick study, the King's Gambit Falkbeer variation. If you have more questions and clarifications, just comment down below. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.